It is a conflict that has raged for more than 50 years and claimed as many as 220,000 lives. The battle between the Colombian government and the Revolutionary Armed Forces of Colombia is the subject of peace talks in Havana. Yet, for all the progress that appears to have been made, it never seems to last. Could that be different this time? And what happens to FARC if there is a peace deal? Colombia's FARC is Latin America's largest guerrilla army, yet beyond the battles, very little is known about this group, where they live, how they live, and what life is like deep in the jungle. CCTV's Toby Muse spent several days inside a FARC camp and has some rare insight.
In the morning gloom, more than 150 guerrilla fighters fall into formation. Hidden away in the rainforests, this is a guerrilla camp of the Revolutionary Armed Forces of Colombia, the biggest rebel army in the Americas and the world's longest-running insurgency. But this war may be coming to an end. These guerrillas are on the cusp of a bold new experiment for Colombia. These fighters may be the first ones to enjoy peace. Kunta Kinte is a veteran of the FARC, spending nearly 30 years in the group.
It's historic because we're giving it our all. More than anything, the FARC, we're giving it our all. We're saying that we will build peace in Colombia. We're saying we're laying down our weapons. We'll take a look at the Truth Commission. We're going to show our faces to the country. It's because we want peace. It's no small thing.
And this camp is a good indicator of where the FARC stands. Preparing for life beyond the civil war if the negotiations are successful. But if the talks fail, ready for war. It's time for class. Today, the FARC commander known as Federico Nariño explains the FARC's future.
In the past, in these daily meetings, they would discuss military strategy. They would teach war. But now, as negotiations with the government advance, they're teaching a new generation of guerrillas how to live in peace.
The FARC says it is holding these peace classes every day, teaching politics, geography, mathematics, a new set of skills for a Colombia in peace. Here, it's not all war. Over the half-century of war, the FARC has built their own parallel world, even down to creating their own dental practices in the middle of the jungle. Every guerrilla we spoke to was optimistic that a peace deal would be achieved. And yet, the level of mistrust in the government is a warning sign that things could derail at any moment. As our visit to the camp wraps up, we come across two guerrillas dancing. She's been teaching him how to dance for 2 weeks ahead of a cultural event the guerrillas will put on for their fellow rebels. Those in the FARC say that the peace process has changed the organization, allowing it to emerge from the jungle and engage with Colombia and the world. The guerrilla known as Manuel Bolivar says that at the height of the war, there was little time for education, culture, or dancing.
Some incredible insights into FARC, and Toby joins us now from Bogota. This location that you were in looks incredibly remote. Give us some sense of how you got there and just how remote is it?
It's extremely remote. It took us around 25 hours driving from Bogota. And you're really going across some of Colombia's worst roads. The potholes don't even begin to describe the mud and the holes. And I think this is important because it shows that the FARC really are strong where the Colombian government has never really had a presence. We were driving through zones, we wouldn't see anyone for 3 or 4 hours. Where we were, there was no school. There was a structure of a school, but the local farmers told us that the teacher hadn't been there for 2 years. A hospital for these small farmers was 10 hours away. So I think it's this abandonment by the central government of Colombia that really makes people look for alternatives. And I think any future peace deal, that's going to have to be a core part of such negotiations to make sure that the Colombian state is really in every part of Colombian territory.
We hear a lot from experts on this rebel group who have never met a FARC fighter. Talk to us about how important it is to hear from them directly, and the most surprising thing you took away from this entire experience.
I agree. I think it's really important to understand exactly how these people view Colombia, how they view their own 50 years of fighting the central government. And I did ask them the hard questions. I asked them, look, is it true that you're involved in drug trafficking? What about the use of child soldiers? And it was important to understand how they see these things. The thing I would take away that I think could be a surprise for many people is, certainly of the guerrillas we met on this trip, they really do believe in what they're doing. Now, these could be their methods or their ideology could be abhorrent to somebody. You can disagree with them all that you want, but they really do believe in the armed struggle, and now it seems to be they really do believe in their chance to become a political party and advance their goal of a Marxist-Leninist Colombia.
What I found somewhat surprising, maybe we can talk just briefly about this, is you wouldn't think of FARC players as players, volleyball players, or dancing instruction. I mean, it's kind of the simple things in life that we kind of take for granted. You wouldn't think you'd find that in a zone like this, but you did.
Exactly, and I think that scene of this female guerrilla teaching this other guerrilla how to dance was very touching for me. Of course, the FARC have committed atrocities over their history. But in the end, Colombia is this extremely polarized country. And this comes from the FARC and from their enemies. And the FARC themselves have kept us away, journalists. They've been very secretive over the course of their 50 years. They occasionally let us in, they occasionally don't. But with this peace process, you get the sense that they're trying to re-engage with the world. Now, is that tactical? Very well could be. But I got the impression it was something more, that these years of living in the jungle has taken a toll on them. I think they're aware that a lot of the world has passed them by. So hopefully, if a peace deal can be signed, it will be this process of seeking to demonize the other, that these Colombians can come together, that they can lay down their weapons and hopefully give Colombia a new future.
You've talked about the peace talks which are underway in Havana. Were there demands that they talked about with you? What sorts are they, and how realistic are they?
Well, to be clear, the FARC had one rule about our interviews with them, that they wouldn't discuss anything that was going on in Havana, the specifics. And it made sense, because the whole point of the Colombian peace deal is nothing's agreed until everything is agreed. And they seem to be that they'll be negotiating for at least another 3 or 4 months. So they didn't want to get into specifics, but we did get some of their central demands. There's one that I think is quite worrying. I think the FARC believe that the Colombian government controls all of far-right paramilitary activities. In various parts of the country, we have what might be called narco-militias operating. They're mainly dedicated to trafficking drugs. One such group is called the Urabeños. But they also have a far-right ideology. It's not as important as the drug trafficking, but it's there. Now, in the past, these people have assassinated leftist politicians, human rights workers, and that was the one red flag I really did see, that the FARC expect that as soon as they sign the peace deal with the government, that the government could just end these far-right paramilitaries overnight. And I don't think it really works that way. And I think the FARC's going to have to accept that there are even limits to what the Colombian government can do. The Colombian government seems to be stepping up its fight against these far-right paramilitaries, but it won't be destroying them overnight.
Toby Muse joining us from Bogota. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
And look for an extended version of Toby's report coming up on a future edition of America's Now.